Welcome to Stick to Rugby, brought to you by Defender. Now, today we're going to be chatting all things Red Roses and a little bit of SAS, but obviously World Cup is round the corner, gents. The Red Roses are just about to start their, I was going to say defence, but it's not. Their run.
Should have been.
Should have been. No. Yeah. Their run, hopefully, to the final.
To reclaiming the trophy.
Thank you. But obviously, home World Cups come with different levels of pressure. And when we talk about pressure, nerves come in. Can you remember a game or a situation where you've kind of been the most nervous playing rugby or before rugby?
Oh, good question. Before rugby, my first memory of being nervous was being in the changing room at Welford Road, so under the stand, the wee old wooden stand, and I would have just turned 18, so I left school 3 months prior to it. God. And being sat with Dean Richards, Rory Underwood, John Wells, all guys that were well into their 30s who I'd idolised. And I was sat there trying not to speak or be noticed, basically. Just wanted to get on the pitch and play. You know what it was like? It's this sort of social awkwardness. And I remember sat there having like a little team huddle with the forwards, and Dean asked me a question. He was like, "Right, guys, we're just going to go through the back row moves. Lewis, could you just list off the back row moves for us?" I was like that. I think as soon as he asked the question, he realised he'd made a fatal error, because I literally couldn't think of a single thing under pressure. I was so nervous, and actually, I don't know whether it sorted me out or it made me more focused. I went out and scored 2 tries on debut, which was quite nice. But prior to the game, I could not have been more uncomfortable.
I mean, the first 10 caps of my international career, I think I would say I was nervous every game, because it's not until you feel like you belong at that level that you sort of you learn how to channel those nerves and that energy in the right direction. I mean, we got to the World Cup final. I don't know about you, but that was my 65th cap for England.
Yes.
And I think after a while, you kind of know you should hopefully know what you're doing.
You embrace that, don't you? But I think your relationship with pressure and your own physical, state changes, because you recognise that the nerves, lull, or the anxiety, or whatever word you want to use, is actually really useful for focusing your mind on what you need to do, and ultimately what you want to go out and do is play as well as you can. So, I'm with you. I actually loved embracing the sort of nerves and the feeling pre-game.
Yeah, massively. I'd go alongside that. I mean, you know me. I'm always very chill. I think the most pressure I felt recently. I felt more pressure recently doing the dad's race at Sports Day.
A lot of expectation.
Because again, everybody looks at you and go, you should win this. And I was like,
especially when one of your competitors turns up with his spikes on as well.
Yeah, or one of them's half your age and you're like, oh, you look quick, and actually just making sure that your hamstring lasts 60 metres.
Do you know what? Talking about nerves, I wonder if our special guest today, he actually suffered from nerves in his career. He is not a professional rugby player, but certainly could hold his own physically. It is, of course, former Royal Marine Commando and star of the hit TV series SAS, Who Dares Wins, the one and only Jason Fox, everyone. We can't wait to chat to him. But question for everyone, Jason and his instructors on SAS, Who Dares Wins, are known as being pretty tough and sometimes even scary in terms of the intimidation. Who then, in terms of our opponents, were either the scariest player, coach that you were coached by, or team or individual that you played against? I mean, for instance, for us, Katy, the hardest team to play against was South Africa.
Yeah.
Physically very intimidating, and I guess within that team there's going to be some 1 or 2 individuals that you'd think that you wouldn't want to walk down a dark alley with. I mean, Backy's Botum, Victor Matfield, we played against both of them when they were very young.
Backy's was just a out and out beast. Yeah. I love playing those games. I don't know what you guys are like, but when we're progressing in our careers and we get to the stage where you think, okay, you're playing internationally, how good am I? You want to figure out how good you are, right? Yeah. You want to play against the best guys or the toughest people.
100%.
And Backy's was always that. You knew if you wanted to figure out how physical you were as a player, for me anyway, playing against South Africa, if you beat South Africa, and if you got one over on Backy's, you knew you'd done it. Like if for me in my position, playing against Richie McCaw, I mean, you get schooled every time. You very quickly realise how far down the pecking order you are.
But that was more around scary, as in scary amount of ability, rather than anything. I mean, he was just scarily good, whereas Backy's was just scary. The other guy that I struggled against was Sebastian Chabal. He was scary, as in the way he looked. I mean, I don't know how many times he played for France, but he wouldn't have played brilliantly in every game. But I can assure you, every time he played against me, I think it's somehow he seemed to
eyes lit up.
His eyes lit up, and I found him a really difficult opponent to play against. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say, apart from the fact that we may have gone on to win the game, he actually got the better of me in most of the games that I played against him. Because I don't know whether it was me, I never normally don't think about my opponent, but he definitely got under my skin more than most.
He had a presence, didn't he?
Yeah.
When you've got a highlight reel that's you running over the top of people,
you
know what's coming.
Katie, what about you?
Oh man, we played against, obviously New Zealand were really big in that point of my career, but they had a number 8 called Casey Robinson, and she was a farmer, and she had hands that felt like shovels, like one of those, pick the ball up with one hand, which is really rare in the women's game at that point, from the base of a scrum, generally a scrum going forward, and the amount of times she must have ran over me as a young fly half.
Really?
Joy of
she was a big unit, but she was powerful. Yeah, I've got to admit, it was one of those where you're like, you don't want to defend here.
I have to, yours.
I mean, Tops, I think I remember reading that your debut came against Savivatu, so that in itself would be enough to give me to give me nightmares. I think only Jonah Lomu could be worse than that, or Rokothoko. But
you knew what was coming. But I tell you what, I didn't mind him because he wasn't going to just try and run over the top of you. Like I didn't enjoy playing more against like an Alessandro Tuilangi, who actually, what the problem is. It's can you stop it? It's coming route one over the top of you. Whereas wingers who have a bit of footwork, that roam the pitch, they're almost, you don't mind dealing with them. But
that's when you've got to take your back row forwards out for dinner every day.
Well, that's it. If he gets the ball, I expect to see 2 of you.
There's at least 2 of you there.
Over here.
As a kid, I was a skinny little dweeb, so I was on the wing. But then when I joined...
No. Have you ever been in a situation where you genuinely feared for your life?
One of the guys from another heli got killed straight away. And I can remember within about 20 seconds, I'm in a ditch. I wanted my mum. We had Heather Fisher on. We had her do milling against an old Tory MP. That's it, bloody hell, well done.
Well, no, I've just been
Early on in my career, you get excited about it. When it all goes a bit noisy, you're like, oh, here we go.
The Red Roses are the overwhelming favourites to win this world. I mean, I was just blown away by how strong that squad looked.
No other nation will get close to them, not even New Zealand at this point.
There's Shawsey on that.
Yeah.
He couldn't fit in the boat. He goes, what if I can't get out of the fucking boat? I was like, I reckon you'll be able to rip the boat in half.
Right, well, welcome everyone. Welcome, Jason. We'll get on to you officially first. We always have a local delicacy. So these, I think, were bought up the road in the shop, were they?
Nice and local.
Katie,
what do you mean?
I don't know. Did you bake those?
Look how perfectly rounded they are.
Did you bake those?
No, I didn't. Right, so the story was, I said I'd bake a nice little tray bake for us, nice school theme. Guys, it was so bad. So my mum and dad had been to Yorkshire with some nice little Yorkshire shortbread, and these are from the train station on the way in.
Well, they'll do.
It's the thought that counts, right?
So, and they're like...
a little bun.
A little bun.
I mean, 6:30 this morning, Lawrence, it wasn't a big choice, if I'm honest.
Okay, well, listen, Jason Foxy Fox, it's great to have you on our show as Stick to Rugby. You've been trained to face terrifying interrogation. Forces all around the world, scenarios that you can only dream of, but today you're facing the ultimate test, obviously.
It is. I'm actually quite worried.
You've got to eat all of these biscuits.
First of all, you've got to eat some of those, or even one, by the way you described it, but you've got to face the ultimate test, which is the Katy Daley-Mclean quiz challenge.
That's right. In one word, describe these celebrities who you've had on SAS.
Oh my God.
Okay, you ready? Katie Price.
Disappointing.
Joey Essex.
Surprising.
Chris Robshaw.
That's a long pause.
Yeah, there's a lot.
But it's like I want to do more than one word.
Yeah.
Sad.
Wayne Bridge.
Machine.
Ooh, John Fashanu.
Is that a word?
Old.
Gareth Gates.
Shocking.
Matt Hancock.
Fun.
Tony Bellew.
Angry.
Eureka Johnson.
Shadow.
Callum Best.
Good.
Nice. Well done, you survived. You can continue.
Why shadow? What was the shadow?
Shadow of her former self.
Yeah.
Nice.
How many of celebrities do you get that you're like, this is not for you? You've got a bad brief from your agent.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that going on because they're just hell-bent on getting some people on there. And then also sometimes I don't think people really understand that it is actually quite difficult. Like, I speak to people like Wayne still, and he has people phoning him that are obviously, they've signed up to it, and they're like, mate, what's it like? And he'll be like, it's brutal, blah, 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 blah. And he even tells me, he says, I can tell in their tone, they're like, yeah, whatever, mate.
Funny you said the word you said about him, because people would have expected certain footballers to be a bit flaky, but
he is a machine.
Yeah.
He's got an engine on. He's naturally got an engine.
Out of us four, who do you think wouldn't make it?
All of you would.
Oh, that's easy win.
I tell you what, we had Heather Fisher on.
Yeah.
Scarily tough.
I used to room with Heather Fisher.
But so on their one, we had them doing murder ball, which is like rugby without any rules. There's no ball involved either, actually. There's a tyre.
That sounds like most of Lewis's career.
And Heather's career, so.
Yeah. Exactly.
But she tackled, whatever you want to call it, a guy called Jeff Brazier.
Yeah.
Knocked him about 6 foot in the air. He fell on his back and was out. Like, not out, but like literally didn't want to get back up. When someone's just not interested, they're like, I'm tapping out.
Wow.
But we also had her do milling, the old fighting, against an old Tory MP. Can't remember her name. And Heather...
Louise Mensch or something.
That's it, yeah. Bloody hell, well done.
Well, no, I've just been told. I can't take claim to that.
But she punched her in the stomach. She went down on all fours and then uppercut her in the chin, and she just launched and we were like, we are not allowed to piss her off.
So Jason, just before we get on, presumably the test, I mean, when you're a rugby player on there, you think it's obviously there's a physical side to the test, but the stuff that you do for Whose Dares Wins is an all-round it's endurance, it's mental, it's the whole lot. So the people we expect that would do really well aren't necessarily those people.
I'd say it's more psychological.
Is it?
Yeah, because the living conditions are terrible for everyone, including us. They don't know what they're doing from 1 second to the next, which is what really stitches people up. Like, they're laid in their bed, they rarely sleep.
So it's the expectations that are dislocated.
And they're burning so much nervous energy. It's either too hot or it's too cold. It's either dry as a bone or you're piss wet.
But most people in their life like to control, don't they? They like to know what they're doing, and when you take that control away from someone, including any of us, it puts you in a sort of a slightly area of uncertainty, doesn't it?
Adding that into maybe what they think is coming their way versus the reality.
Yeah, exactly. Because half the time we don't even do it.
Yeah.
They're thinking something horrendous is about to happen, and then we don't do it, which is even worse because they're almost disappointed.
Fear.
How long are you together? How long's that?
It's varied over the years, but it started at 7 days solid, 24 hours a day, and then it went to 14 days, and it's now about 10.
Well, talking about something at the other end of the spectrum, something magical, you have become a father. Talk us through that.
Yeah, he was born a little bit premature. He had to come out early, which didn't go down well because I wasn't here. So I WhatsApp, FaceTimed, whatever you call it, and I found it quite easy.
Where were you?
I was in Morocco, so I was on the rooftop of the place that we were staying at the time. So the due date was only a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, and my being away was all good, so I'd be back in time, and then it wasn't. That added a bit of friction, nothing bad, but it was a bit like, oh God, how am I I had to break the news when I was also still away, so anyway. she's an absolute machine, Jules.
So Jules is doing well, your wife. Jack is how old now?
7 weeks yesterday.
7 weeks?
Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
I know, it's good.
And he joins your wider family of girls or boys?
Girls,
from...
Girls, but then my side of the family, as in my brothers, we're all boys, so he's all right.
Right. So he's currently going through his intense training regime at the moment.
He's in good, yeah.
And I mean, obviously this has been a long journey for you. What was harder, giving birth or creating a baby than Marine selection?
The creating.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not going to say giving birth bit because.
But it's not been a simple journey.
It's not been
a simple process, is it?
No, not at all. It's been emotional, to be quite honest.
Right.
And being a bloke, you're a bit like,
I
don't really know. I actually, do you know what? I learned a bit about the whole sort of emotional thing because in the early periods and ever since, I was, all before any of this happened, my life in the military, I was very much a person that was like, with people that were upset, I'm like, oh, okay, come on then, don't be upset. Let's just, and actually I was like, it got to the point where I was like, hang on a minute, who am I to tell someone not to be upset? That's like.
Well, so you're trained not to have too many emotions, really. I mean,
yeah, I've become a bit emotional.
Yeah, well, good on you. Good on you. Now, listen, you joined the army at a very young age, 16, which I think is relatively young. We will often get asked this question: would we want any of our children to be professional rugby players? Would you encourage Jack to do what you've done?
People used to ask me this before, and I was like, "There's no chance my kids are joining. They'd go and not." And anyway, now it's a different question now. Yeah, I would, but I'd make sure that he understood exactly what it entailed. Like I was lucky, my old man, he used to be in the Marines long before I joined them, and he'd left when I was born. But he was very much like, you can have a go at it, but you need to. He didn't gloss it. He didn't sugarcoat it. He was like, this is hard. He goes, you need to go and do this, this, and this. And he actually used to sort of like. Bit of a red rag to a boy. He goes, you ain't going to be able to do it. Yeah. And I used to think, hang on a minute, that's out of order. He's my old man. Yeah. It's only recently when we chat about, I knew you would. I ain't going to tell you could.
So often for a father and his son, it's a very different, maybe it's a slightly different conversation around joining the army than it is when you tell your mother that you're joining the army.
And my old dear couldn't wait to get rid of me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, mate. She was like, literally, she was at the train station like that. Okay. Bye. I joke about it, but my mum, she sent 2 lads away to the Marines, so I never really thought about how she felt until I...
Sorry, she'd already sent 2 lads?
Me and then my younger brother.
Your younger brother, okay.
I was the first to go, then he went.
I mean, bear in mind, you ended up in the Marines, and then we'll talk about the Special Forces later, which is a bit like the British Lions, really. It's another level above even the Marines. What do you think are the characteristics of becoming an elite soldier?
I think you need to... I grew up in Luton. That's why I joined up so young. I just wanted to get away.
So you need some.
Sorry, Luton.
No. I didn't do so well at school.
But you need hunger. You need hunger and drive.
Yeah, basically. You need everything I've ever done. I've never had an out. There's never been a second option. So I think that gives you a strong why. I think the why's got to be strong. It's like lots of people have got courses I've been on in the past. Yeah. And when I look back on my time joining the Marines, I was a 16-year-old that I had no qualifications. I was going to be getting into trouble. And to be honest, when I first joined, I was rubbish. I didn't know my backside from anything. And I was struggling. I was properly couldn't keep my head above water. And I was in training with, there was people that were 27. They were 11 years older than me.
But you had a thought, if I don't make it in this, I'm going to really struggle. But so you had to really.
So those 27-year-olds, they were good at all the stuff that I wasn't good at, but they had other options, and you'd see them come the halfway mark. People were just like, do you know what? I don't need to be doing this. And so I didn't have an out, and I didn't want an out, and so there was that. It did click halfway through the training, sort of around the week 15 period. I suddenly picked things up really quickly and then loved it. Yeah. And then I just...
So let me frame the question a bit in a different way. What did the military and your journey teach you about yourself?
It taught me that I can wing anything. No, it taught me a lot about pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. I actually started, although I hated it to begin with, I loved it. And then I got to the point where I loved being able to do things that I knew other people couldn't. I loved like being cold, wet, miserable. I loved it. I loved knowing that other people couldn't do that, and I thrived off the. I don't know, just loved it. Weird, but I think to answer your original question, you've got to be stubborn.
Yeah.
You've got to proper want something and enjoy what the craft is, whatever it is, and then you've got to make sure you're a bit physically and psychologically robust. You don't have to be super fit. I mean, fitness is a thing, but I think you've got to be robust.
Yeah.
Like take the knocks and whatnot.
Okay. And I mean, you have obviously seen a lot of action and live combat has changed over many years, the way it's done, and you've been from the Marines into special forces, etc. Without giving away any sort of military secrets, have you ever been in a situation where you've genuinely feared for your life?
Yeah, there was. It's funny, you get into all the situations where you're getting shot at or you're involved in something that's like pretty scary.
Yeah.
Early on in my career, for some reason, we used to get excited about it, and you're like, when it all goes a bit noisy, you're like, oh, here we go. For some reason, I think it's adrenaline. I think it's wanting to do the job, being tested. But then there was one thing that we did, and there was people that you guys know as well that were on it, and on this particular operation, we ran off the back of before we even ran off the back of the helicopters for 6 minutes, we were getting shot out of the sky. You could feel the aircraft getting hit, and I remember thinking, this is pretty scary.
If it's starting like this,
we haven't even landed. Exactly.
Landed yet.
And we ran off the back, ran off the back, and we were in the middle of this absolute, shitstorm of a situation. One of the guys from another heli got killed straight away. And I can remember within about 20 seconds, I'm in a ditch, and I was like, what are we doing? And I was in a senior position within the organisation as well. And I'm thinking, what have we done here? We've bitten off more than we can chew. I'm not sure we're getting out of here. Sort of dealt with that emotion at the time. I can actually remember wanting to be with my old dear. Yeah. I wanted my mum, weirdly. As in, I think that was just a fallback. That was just a safe place. Yeah. And then it went on again. We did a bit more, and then we were in a situation where we weren't able to get out of where we were, and we got told that we were pretty much surrounded. And then I started thinking about my daughter, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to see her again. Yeah. And then you sort of get rid of that negative. I mean,
presumably, when this operation was planned, the plan wasn't to jump off the back of a helicopter straight into a complete firefight shit show.
We knew it was going to be, yeah.
Okay.
We didn't really have.
But it was potentially worse than you had possibly imagined or predicted.
Much worse than. So when I can remember flying in, and I was wondering what the night was going to entail, and I thought this is going to be another one of those nights where we don't see anything. It's boring, because there's a lot of times you go out and it's just like, oh God. And I was like, it's going to be one of those, and then the next thing you know,
it's not boring.
I was wrong. I was wrong. And you've got to be careful what you wish for as well, because you're like, oh, I hope it's not boring.
You're one of the leaders in that group at that time. I mean, so you can't just land in there and go quiet. You're the one that's got to make the next decision. And
to be honest, when you're in, it's probably the same as with everyone in professional sport, especially rugby. You've been drilled that much that actually, when you're in a position of leadership, regardless of where it is, because there's people above me, there's people, all sorts. And I speak to, the guy that was our sergeant major on the ground then, and you're always like, well, what was it like for you when all this was going on? He goes, to be honest, I didn't really everyone just knew what they were doing. You just sort of, it's almost the group of people are they're like a beast. They're
so the training kicks in. Basically.
Yeah, and it just organically moves in its own way, and it just does what it needs to do. And every now and again, I think a couple of the people that made executive decisions on that evening were at the top end. Everyone else just got on with it.
But you talk about, you're one of the few that have come back, and you're here telling that story to us now. But you have seen some of your colleagues, who haven't made it back on the helicopter, who've got killed. I mean, that's something you can't even put into words, is it? But unfortunately, it's a consequence of.
Yeah, it does happen. It's funny because you'll go away for, say, as an example, would be for a 6-month period, and then stuff like that story I just mentioned. Then that was at the beginning of a 6-monther, and then you've got to sort of. you can't really process what's happened. You can have like a moment to yourself when you get back. I think a few of us like got back, I don't even smoke, I rolled a cigarette, I was like, and you sort of, that was a little bit of decompression. Then you're just you're in the mixer and you've got to go again, and it's, afterwards you've got, when you're in a position where you can start to reflect on it, that's when you need to, but we didn't, or I didn't, and I think that's probably what bit me in the backside.
So processing it, and actually we're going to talk about that now, because in 2012, I think, you left the military, and you were diagnosed or suffering at the time from PTSD.
Yeah.
Just explain to us what, you know, as in whatever way you want to, what that actually means, and when did you first realise that? Because until you process some of these experiences that you've discussed, you can't even begin to understand what effect they actually have on you, I suppose.
It's a bit complicated, but I came back from that tour and I felt differently. We all felt differently. All the guys that were on that one, we were psychologically exhausted. We came back, it's like a 6-month health farm. You go and train, you don't drink.
Where was this,
Afghan, yeah. And we came back and loads of us had lost weight. We were looking gaunt, or I felt I looked gaunt and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, didn't think anything of it, got back into the mix, doing other stuff that you do in the Special Forces. And then we were getting ready to go again on another deployment. And there was lots of other things going on in my life. I was getting my divorce, all sorts. My daughter was ill. And I was not paying any of that attention. I was just looking forward to going away again. And then as soon as we were told, right, this is when we're going away and you've got to do all this build-up training, like prep, all of a sudden that trip away it felt like a dark cloud in the distance. And I was like, hang on a minute, I'm normally loving this. I'm normally loving going away. I'm like, what? And then I tried to hide it, suppress it. And then I was getting worse in the way that I was, behaving. I wasn't behaving very well. I was pretty erratic, probably drinking too much.
So at what point do you think you then realised something was wrong? You put your hand up and asked for help?
I knew something was wrong anyway, but after what happened was we were doing some training, and the training you do it's awesome. Yeah. It's cool stuff. And we'd just done a load of stuff up in London with the old Bill, and I had to do a debrief to the team, and I was like, I couldn't be arsed. I was like, I remember seeing them there looking at me like, and I'm just like, lads, and I was having to dig deep to find some motivation in me. I did what I did. No one knew this was going on. It was in my head, and I was like, this is out of order. This isn't fair. And so at the next available opportunity, when I was back on camp, I sort of, under the cover of darkness, and no one saw me, I scurried into the mental health department in the med centre.
When you say scurried, is that because it was...
Well, I just didn't want anyone... Yeah. I was like, walked into sick bay or the med centre, and I was like, make sure no one can see, knocked on the door, and
there's like a psych... travels fast, I would imagine.
There's a psych nurse there, and I'm like, hey, you don't know who I am, but I've just got something I need to talk to you about, and I want you to tell me how to fix it. And she was like, right, sit down. And then I thought it was going to be nipped in the bud by her saying, think like this, and it wasn't. It then sort of snowballed, and it was actually, if I'm being brutally honest, it wasn't so much the military stuff. Yes, that was a catalyst, but it was the collapse of my own personal life that I paid no attention to. That actually really, when I look back on it now, it was just a culmination of lots of different things.
That was probably the catalyst for, rather
there was lots of things going on at the same time, and if I'd looked at it all in one go, there was all the military stuff, which was cool, and I was trained to do it, and I was good at it, but it was all the other stuff that was falling, like my car broke down. That's just another chip. Yeah. Daughter's not very well. Me and my missus are having arguments because we're splitting up, and so it's all more to do with everyone sort of looks for the blame to go towards the thing that's the external, but actually it's probably the internal that we should, or I should have concentrated.
Well, listen, you came through the other side of that, and one of the many things you've done since you left the military is you set up a charity to help individuals in the same situation that you found yourself in. Lewis and I have done something similar. We all work in various and put our time to various charities. Just tell us a little bit about that in terms of what the charity is and why you felt the need to, or the inclination to drive it.
So it's a CIC, which is not quite a charity. It's a community interest company, and there's reasons why we didn't go into the charity world. But what happened was, me and another mate of mine, Jamie, we left at the same time for the same reasons. We knew each other from the Marines, and we were sat down chatting one day in the pub, moaning about the system. Oh, it's rubbish. Let us down, slip through the net, all this sort of stuff. And we're like, well, instead of moaning about it, maybe we should like. And what was going on was other guys that we knew were phoning us up because we'd sort of, once we'd left, we sort of were a little bit more open about it. And we're like, yeah, we got medically discharged with PTSD, with post-traumatic stress. So, you know, it is what it is. But then we were getting guys phoning us up going, mate, I'm feeling like this, doing this. Any advice? And we're like, I haven't really got advice, but just understand that it's normal. And because of all that, we were like, maybe we should like do something with that. And so we set rock. It's called Rock to Recover. There's a couple of things. One, you need a rock to recover, something to, you know, a foundation. But two, Jamie had actually learnt to play the guitar. He also reckoned he could sing, but he can't. But he learned to play the guitar through this whole process. And so there was a double meaning there, and set it up, and we didn't really know what it was going to be. But then now it's this thing that delivers interventional coaching and whatnot to people that are having a tough time. It started off as military. Does anyone that really sort of presents themselves to.
Do you guys think that you were the kind of the first of that group to come out and start to openly talk about PTSD and the knock-on effect it was kind of having on you?
I would never be arrogant enough to think we were the first, but I think we were at a stage where we jumped in and thought, do you know what, let's just talk about it. When I left, I had a mate that is a very successful businessman in the city, and he lives just outside London. And I didn't have a job, and he was like, mate, come and stay with me for a week. Let's get in the city. I'll just hang around with me and network. And we're on the train going into town on the Monday, and he's there with me, and he goes, mate, whatever you do, don't tell anyone you've got any mental health issues, any of this. And I was like, all right, okay. I'll keep it good. I was
Thanks,
like,
mate.
shit.
Also,
No, he thought he was doing me a favour, and it was a few years ago. And then I was like, after about a year or two, I was like, it's not doing me any favours. Like I nearly committed suicide to it. So I thought that's not working for me. So maybe I should start talking about it anyway. And so there was a few things that led me to start talking. I think I had the opportunity, and that's one of the reasons I did the show. I had an opportunity to sort of use something as a bit of a platform, and that's what I did. So maybe in that sense.
Stick to Rugby, brought to you by Defender.
You've touched on a few things. Obviously, we've heard about your military career and the struggles that you've touched on, and a little bit about the charity. But in terms of when you were leaving and when you were struggling at the end, did you have any idea what you'd do next? Was there like a plan that you were gonna?
I've never had a plan.
No plan.
No plan. No, there was no plan. Plans go wrong. I didn't. I didn't have a clue.
Plate? Everyone's got a plan to get punched in the
Yeah,
face.
exactly. Except my whole life was a punch in the face. It's like, I got given a job out of the kindness of someone's heart. I ended up getting a job in a facilities management company called Sodexo. They're a huge company. The guy that gave me the job was like, mate, this isn't going to be the job for you, but just take it. And I'm still really good friends with him. And he just sort of like looked after me for about 18 months in that business. I didn't look after myself, got myself into a bit of trouble. I ended up resigning. I was like, mate, because I was causing so much grief for him. So I tried to do a few security jobs. I've got some little ones here and there where people felt sorry for me. And then a friend of mine who works in TV, a guy called Aldo, he's an ex-Marine. We're best mates, and he knew I was in a bit of a predicament, and me and him went on a job together. We sort of safety rigged someone, so strapped someone up into a wind tunnel down in Southampton Uni for a TV show. Had a good laugh, did a good job. He gave me another job out in Madagascar, that went well, and then I was in the mix for, like, people knew who I was in the TV world, and then the SAS show came about by pure chance.
Were you surprised? Well, you mentioned in there, felt sorry for you. That must be a unique feeling for a former Special Forces operative.
A lot of people, everyone thinks they're going to leave whatever they've chosen to do, their career, and it's going to be plain sailing. Yeah. I think a lot of lads do. They're always like, I've got this lined up, and then it doesn't quite work out how they envisaged it. And I think one of the words of advice that I have for people now is like, don't be despondent if the first thing you decide to do isn't the right thing, because that I did. It proper got me down. I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to make a round peg fit a square hole, the other way around, whatever.
The second or the third thing as well, based on what you said, it's that transition can be really hard,
Yeah.
I guess.
I think it's the same in anything though, isn't it really? Especially like, you do something from a reasonably young age and it requires you to be fit, switched on, doing whatever. And then it doesn't last forever. And sometimes it gets cut shorter than you, like my career ended only about I'd signed up for 22 years, 20-year it ended. But even if it just being so close to my sort of natural release point, I was still like, what? Because you can extend anyway, a lot of people do. And it sort of, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a plan B. I wasn't expecting I needed a plan. And then it sort of was a bit of a shock, and you're institutionalized, didn't you? You know, you finish a career in something that's basically dictated what you do, how you do it. And then all of a sudden you're just expected to do something under your own steam, and it's a bit like, I need someone telling me not telling me what to do, but I need structure.
And what would, your former self, what would, Special Forces operator Jason Fox say if he was told he was going to be a TV? Yeah, not like that. You know what? TV lovely.
I would bang myself out.
Really?
I would. I would not have been impressed. I would not have believed you, 100%. And actually, the decision to do that thing took a long time. It took a few weeks. It was a process. And I was like, I was sleeping on my mate's sofa up in North London. And the SAS opportunity presented itself. And when I first got the phone call, I thought that they were asking me to be, or they wanted me to be an off-screen consultant. And I was like, yeah, no, I'll just fucking tell you this, and this. And then it was like, well, we want you to be on screen. And I was like, well, you'll blank our faces out, wouldn't you? They're like, nah, we don't do that anymore. People don't connect with who you are. And I was like, well, I don't know about this. And I ummed and ahed about it for about a week and a bit or so. Yeah. And my mate was like, how are you paying your bills? And I was like, oh, yeah, good point.
Can I ask you a question? With the Special Forces particularly, there's obviously a mystique, quite understandably, and an aura and everything that sits behind that, quite rightly so. But there's also a code of conduct that, when you're there, you behave in a certain way that defines who you are. And then when you leave, you're expected to remain in secrecy. Obviously, crossing into the world that you're in television, there are examples of some of your previous colleagues who may have gone in a different direction and maybe revealed all of their secrets. There's obviously what you do, which is not telling people what they don't already know. Where do you sit on all of that now? Has it been difficult to navigate that course?
It is still something that I wrestle with. Now, when I got offered the opportunity, I was like, I ain't doing that. In my head, I didn't say it to the person because I always wanted to keep the options open, but I was like, I ain't doing this, but how am I going to manage this? Anyway, I was having this, it was a long conversation with the production company, and I was keeping them hanging on, and I was like, how do I do this? Then I got a phone call now I'd been outside, I'd left the military for 3 years at this stage. I get a phone call from this guy that I knew, and he was like, hey mate, how's it going? I'm like, yeah, not bad. And I knew that he worked in the sort of, they call it disclosure cell, so they keep tabs on people that are doing stuff that they shouldn't do, writing books and all this sort of stuff. I was like, yeah, not bad. He goes, I just thought I'd see how you're doing. And I was like, that's interesting. I said, no one's fucking bothered trying to speak to me for 3 years.
Just so happens having negotiations.
He goes, what? I says, what's going on? And he goes, oh, well, we've heard that you might be considering doing this TV show thing. And I was like, yeah, your sources are pretty good, aren't they? And he's like, yeah. And I says, what do you think I should do? He goes, well, don't do it. I was like, mate, that's all well and good, but I'm skint. I says, I'm living on a sofa. I says, I've got a kid. I'm like, I need money. And I says, I can't lean into my career because everyone thinks I'm mad. I can't lean into that, what people would consider a degree in, risk management and security, because ultimately people think I'm a bit tainted. I says, this is great, but I've got an opportunity. I says, I'm not going to do anything that's going to stitch the lads up. I says, I will always make sure I try and conduct myself in a way that doesn't bring the group into disrepute. I says, is there a way that, he says, look, we can talk about it. I says, actually, does it affect my welfare, as in my pension? He's like, no, of course it doesn't. I was like, fine. No, I didn't say that. I was just a bit like, okay, cool. What can we do? And there is a process. So we always abide by the process. Every now and again, I might say something that's a little bit close to the mark by accident, or not really realising, that you've said something, and you'll get a nudge. But all the books, they go through people. But there are still, I've got mates that don't agree. We'll have a chat. they're like, I don't agree with it. I was like, no, it's fine. I don't agree with it, to be quite frank, but I'll make sure I do something that isn't going to, affect what goes on. And to be quite frank, I left in 2012. Like, warfare is like, they ain't fighting like we used to fight now.
Now that you've been in that space quite a while, you've been in the SAS Who Dares Win space, you've been on camera, you've been working with different people, you've got a new series coming up, and you've dealt with all the frustrations of leaving the military, and it feels like, from the external viewpoint, that you're in a good space. Do you still enjoy being there and putting people through their paces? Do you look forward to the next episode and go, right, who am I going to nail this time?
Yeah.
Find the right one. Yeah.
It's a lot. It's actually like pretty stressful, because you're living in it all the time. Long hours for us, same for them, but in a different way. And the lads that I work with, we have an unbelievable crack.
Really?
Yeah, really good. And the people that come on it, we have we're pretty sort of emotionless at first, cold, but then as you move on and you get to know some of them, and you have a good laugh. It is quite good.
Favourite celebrity?
Favourite? There's been a few, to be fair. Bridgie's good. Wayne Bridge. Most surprising was Gareth Gates. Came on I didn't really know who he was anymore. I just knew him as a 16-year-old that had a voice impediment, and then next thing you know, he's turned up and he was an absolute machine, and was really, and quite humble, self-deprecating in a fun way as well. He was very, very good. Yeah.
Good quality to have that.
Yeah.
Self-deprecation, isn't it?
It was.
Yep.
Yeah. Although sometimes.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah. It's funny because I got asked a question not long ago. Who's the best person that's come on, and I forgot to say Bridgie, because Bridgie's now he was the first one, and he sort of overcame the fact that he was throwing his reputation on the line, and I said Gareth Gates. And Bridgie got absolutely malleted. Absolutely malleted.
Say me.
Yeah. He actually phoned me. He's like, mate, are you taking the piss?
The military and sport seem to be quite aligned as well, and obviously you've got a bit of a background in rugby. So where did that first come to life?
I played rugby as a kid. I played for a team not far from me called the old Dunstablians.
Proper sounding rugby.
My old man was into rugby, so that was I picked to go down that route. I played a few other sports as well, and then I just joined the Marines and didn't really play. I don't think I was that good anyway. I obviously wasn't talented. I just enjoyed a bit of a.
What position?
Well, I played as a kid. I was a skinny little dweeb, so I was on the wing. But then when I joined, no,
they're all skinny little twins.
As a kid, if you were skinny, the big lads were back then, and then the little ones were on the wing. I'm there as well, and then joined the military, and I just sort of wherever. I just liked playing second row or something where you can just no skill required.
But was there something about the sport that kind of just kept you coming back and saying okay, I'm going to keep playing this?
I just enjoyed the crack.
Team side of it.
Team side of it, yeah. It's quite, there is an element of combat to it. There's a bit of, engaging, properly, locking heads and all that sort of stuff. So I kind of like that. Just wish I was better at it. Just got melted all the time.
Yeah, I'd imagine though you would have had some good dust ups, whether that's regiments going head to head or.
Well, the best one we used to do is they call it the boot match. So it would be the non-commissioned ranks, so the lads against the officers. So that was normally a Christmas thing as well. So yeah, there's always a few broken bones and stuff like that going in. Terrible looking tackles, but it was a good crack.
Yeah, and I guess we spoke about it earlier. Rugby in the military, we tend to use each other to learn off each other. So what similarities do you think there are between the two, and what can one learn off the other?
Being in the military is all about training, learning skills, learning techniques, standard operating procedures, but then understanding that you need to be able to think outside the box, because the minute you actually go into battle, there's someone else that doesn't want you to do that. And so there's there's that whole sort of, you've got your management, you know, the coaches and all that there, but then when you're out there, you're sort of on your own, really.
So flexibility within a framework.
Flexibility, exactly, yeah. So you learn as much as you possibly can.
I heard that from someone.
All right, Clive.
I definitely heard that from someone.
Do you get sold out of them?
Sounds like something Greenwood would say.
You learn as much as you possibly can, so you're like a sponge for information about the enemy, the opposition, everything, what you're good at, what you're not good at. Then you go in with a plan, but just remain flexible. But the one thing that I thought the military did very well was the minute something had finished, whether it was successful or not, you go in and you rip it apart with a fine-tooth comb and look at how you... I actually loved that bit. You come off the ground. I loved the fact you come off the ground, you go in an aircraft hangar and you nitpick everything. You might have been successful, but you're like, what happened? And everyone got an opportunity to talk. Why did you do that? I did that because I felt this, or I saw this. And it's not like a witch hunt. It's just like, right, okay, fine. And then it all gets compiled into what they call an after-action report, an AAR. That gets sent back to the unit, the base, and then the powers that be look at how they can incorporate those lessons learned into the curriculum for other people that are going out doing stuff everywhere. And I loved all that, the sharing. We did it, but we shared it with the Americans, the Aussies. You know, we pooled all our resources, and it was like a grown-up way of saying, learn from our mistakes, not your own. I kind of liked that.
And I think one of the things that we learned from coming, certainly the early days of the Marines, when we went in '99, because the history between the England team and the Marines goes way back to 1999.
Wasn't it Jason Leonard's brother?
Yeah, when we turned up there, and then all the way through to 2007 and beyond, was the scenario planning, because like you said, all of your work was around training, and if we arrive in Afghanistan, and that's when our training kicks in. But actually, the thing that I think Clive and we went back with is, if you don't do your job, someone doesn't only get hurt, they actually don't get back on the helicopter. And then you have to, go and explain to their mum and dad why they're not back, because something went wrong. Now in rugby, no one loses their life, but we need to approach the sport and and the scenarios in a way that it does mean life or death, because then actually we might have the right outcomes. And it sort of took our understanding and sort of our training up to the next level, really. I mean, it's not dramatic. No one loses their life.
No, but
you have to practice as if that scenario could be.
But if you didn't do it to the best of your ability, then the chances are your life's going to change anyway.
Yeah.
To the point where it could be.
Well, you're not going to win the World Cup, and you are going to. It is going to change your life.
Yeah.
I love that immediate feedback though in life now. Outside of sport and the military.
I like that.
That just immediate feedback. We would have got it maybe on a Monday. It wouldn't have been straight after the game. You'd debrief each other, wouldn't you? In normal life, it doesn't feedback. You don't get it the same.
It's because they've got HR in normal life.
Man, but the other thing is the thing that gets me as well is I miss the accountability. Like there's not a lot of accountability now in life. Like if something goes wrong in anything I'm involved in, I'm like, well, hang on a minute, who dropped the ball there? And it's like, well, it's just one of those things that happens. I'm like, nah. And in the military, it's like, right, who fucked up? Yeah, I did. Okay, what happened? Well, I did this. And it's just like understanding. And also, you've got to, in that job that we did, if something is going wrong because you've dropped the ball, you have to highlight it straight away. The whole thing's going to snowball. And so the accountability thing, I actually really liked it.
Really, having honest conversations and being prepared to be honest with each other and say, it was my fault, but next week it might be someone else's fault.
But I do love that. I do, and I sort of miss it to a certain degree. I like going out and doing stuff in groups where we are, we're accountable and we talk to each other about integrity and stuff.
So I imagine you were licking your lips when you got the call saying that Lewis and the boys were coming down in 2007.
Do you know what? We knew a week before. It was about a week before, and I was in an instructional role, and the instructional role was all to do with things amphibious, stuff in the sea, in boats and all that. And we had to set up that initial sort of like little thing down in the water, wasn't it? And it was a miserable day, but
pouring with rain.
Pouring with rain. And actually, in the build-up to that, we had to set some things up on the Friday prior to the weekend. And me and a lad called Jay, me and him nearly wrote off basically 100 grand rib.
I remember we went on some of the smaller versions of, I don't know what you call them.
You had them on remember you doing that pass in the ball to the super?
That was brilliant. But you had them, so we were going directly at each other in these little boats, we'll call them boats, that's probably the wrong word, and you had to pass the ball
amphibious vessels.
Thanks.
Well, they were these two little zap cats that are like catamarans with engines on them. They're dangerous.
But you gave us
me and Dave and that were driving them.
One Lewis was immediately attracted to them.
You've got to like try and pass it to the other team, like so you're doubling the speed that you're going at when the ball arrives. So someone catches the ball, literally takes them back into the boat. But you gave us like eggs as well, and so remember, one of the lads would be at the front. We'd pass the ball, so the person in the other boat that's coming directly at you gets ready to catch it. But just after you pass the ball, you lob an egg up, because when he catches the ball, he'll go down, and the egg's coming straight after it, and it's like one or two.
Imagine planning this, like, do this.
But on the very first thing we had to do, because if you're going to use certain craft, you have to do like a safety brief, and then you have to know how to get out of it. So we did these capsize drills, and the first thing we did was get the canoes. So you get 2-man canoes that we use. And what we were doing was putting them in it, and then me and Jay, the guy that nearly crashed the rib, we were swimming the boat out to the middle. That's what the safety line was for. And then we'd get, I don't know if you remember, get you to capsize. Yeah. Then you've got to get out of the boat, and there's a way of getting back in it, getting it righted up.
Proper panic trying to get out.
Was Shawsey on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can remember him getting in he couldn't fit in the boat. No. He was like this. And he was looking at me like that. He goes, "What if I can't get out of the fucking boat?" I was like, "I reckon you'll be able to rip the boat in half."
We've never had to plan for that.
To be fair, he was like, I don't know how you're going to get out, because he's like proper in.
That was I absolutely loved that time. I know some of the lads were nervous. We were on our way to Portugal, and then we got rerouted to Poole, and some of the lads hated it.
Give up your phones, give up
Some people turned up, I was like worried about getting knocked out or something.
Well, it wasn't until we got Clive Woodward in one of those where we actually did I think this was the camp before 2007, where we capsized and we're all in the helicopter and Clive's halfway down, and you're supposed to, you're upside down, you're in the dark, your helicopter's capsized, and you've all got to get out in an orderly fashion. Clive's pulling players out of the way,
trying the Duncan,
trying to rescue himself.
That thing that you're talking about, we have to do it every year. You do it yearly, and no one, everyone, even though you've done it hundreds of times maybe, everyone's in the changing room getting into their trunks like that.
That cannot be a nice territory. There's nearly 30 of you. I don't know how many fit in there, but you're upside down. You capsize. You're all strapped in. Man. So if you think about it,
it goes down. Yeah. It goes down to about 2.5 meters, and then the airframe spins upside down. So you're disorientated. They turn the lights out. But there's an order you have to go out in. So if you're in the last seat,
depending on where you're sat.
Yeah, so Clive, and you're 2x2 as well, and I was in the middle. And all I could feel was Clive grabbing me and Richard Cockrell from behind, and I couldn't actually say anything to him because otherwise you're going to drown. And anyway, I think he realised that he wouldn't have necessarily been that good as a leader.
At the back, you're going to have to wait for everybody to empty.
Yeah, you got to hold your breath and wait. And these guys do it once a year.
I'm out.
Well, this is a tick in the box, so you can fly in an aircraft over the sea.
I suppose trust in your teammate.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, I mean, to be honest, all these things were really important for us because we had to go through that. We did the firehouse as well, which was another one, which is hard work. And we thought we were just going to be trained, and it would just be sort of slightly ramped up, and it probably obviously we weren't doing the exact training you were doing, but running down a cliff face from 200 foot up in the air abseiling forwards is tough.
That 2007 camp though, we were rubbish going into that World Cup, and you don't put it all down to one thing, but definitely in terms of bringing us together.
It was us.
It was all down to you. We made that final, and
but I thought you meant that we were the reason.
No,
other way around.
That could be.
But but you've got to draw on some sort of
100%
lessons of resilience.
It united, right? It united, didn't it?
Absolutely. You had the chance to do similar in 2023, going to speak to Steve Borthwick and his team before the World Cup. You didn't speak.
I went in and I watched them play, and then I had a Q&A with the lads, not with management. So it was just Jamie.
What was that like though? Maybe better having just the lads in there, maybe without the management?
Yeah, it was just a Q&A where they just asked me some questions and I just answered a few things a bit like this, and then there was some fun stuff as well. But it was a real privilege, yeah. It was cool to watch them train in that build-up to a World Cup they did all right in, to be fair.
Yeah, you got them far as well, so maybe there's something in that.
Well, I don't know. Whatever.
Moving on slightly, obviously we've had an amazing summer of women's sport, Lionesses previously, European champions, amazing. We're like a week away from Women's Rugby World Cup, Home World Cup. It's such an exciting time, having played in the Home World Cup. It doesn't get any better than this. Obviously looking at the Red Roses, they are firm favourites to go and win this, but they've lost 2 finals to New Zealand. I can testify, I've played in a couple of those myself. Do we think that's going to leave scars on them? Do you think that has an impact, or do you think this is kind of new era of women's rugby in this country?
I think we had Sarah Hunter, didn't we, on the show a little while ago?
Yeah.
And she's now retired as captain and a player, and she's part of the coaching group. And we asked her that very question, and she said, "Well, no, because we've actually discussed it. We've talked about it. We can't say that it's never going to happen again, but we have actually. At least we've talked about the elephant in the room. And I, for one, just hope they go out there and do themselves justice. And if they do, then they're going to be a very, very hard side to beat."
Just out of interest, what does it feel like if you were part of something that never quite made it with regard to those finals? Like going in again?
It's interesting. We won in 2014, so I was in a group that had won a World Cup. So we got beaten 2010, we won it in 2014, and then we lost 2017 and 2022 to New Zealand again. But there will be loads of girls in our history that have never won it. I think the thing, it's baggage, isn't it? It's something that you carry around and you can't shake. When we won it in 2014, the big thing, or the big message, was this time's different. And it was loads of evidence-based, like running, GPS, matches won, that showed, look, 2010 had happened, but you were in a better place. And I think, like Sarah's alluded to previously, you've got to acknowledge that elephant. I think previously as England, we didn't do what you guys do really well, which debriefed it. We just like, almost like, you finished the World Cup, you then had this massive break, and then by the time we got back, it was like,
Lewis and I have been there, because we've been in the dressing room
talk about it.
Immediately after 2003, where we've been on the right side of that result, and we're talking about all those emotions, tears, happiness, sadness, whatever it is. And then 4 years later, we're both in the same dressing room, and we've just lost a World Cup final. Now that turned out to be the last game I ever played for England. And obviously I was devastated, but I'm looking around the room and everyone's in like tears, because for them, that was the one and only, for some of them, that was the one and only opportunity.
But I think that was different as well, wasn't it? Because, certainly in the last World Cup, you guys went in pretty much as favourites and, should have won it. And even in the position at the end where Abby's calling the ball to the line out, we'd been so dominant, the Moors absolutely destroyed him. I think in 2007, our World Cup was getting to the bloody World Cup final, wasn't it? We were awful, we're a totally different place.
Katy, did you feel more nerves? The one, so you've won one, but then you've lost one, and then the nerves from the loss, did that carry through into the final?
I don't think it did, because New Zealand went out early in 2014, so they went out in the group stages. So it would have been really interesting if we had to have played New Zealand in a final. So conditions were different, and I think that suited our narrative. I think World Cup finals, I captained in that second one, and that in itself is just oh geez, that moment when you're standing looking at a trophy, being like, oh God, I'm not sure I can move from running out. But I think for the girls, they're just, their view on the game is so different now. I think New Zealand have always had this aura, especially when I was playing, an aura of when they come to World Cup finals, New Zealand win it. I just don't think they hold that now, and the girls have almost put that to bed.
I've got to say, I saw the squad announced, and from previous Red Roses squads, I went through every single player as it came up on my feed, and I'm thinking, that is an awesome looking
strong squad.
I mean, that is not just. You've got Emily Scarrett, fifth World Cup?
Yeah.
Really?
Rohan, fourth World Cup. You've got players who have won the World Cup previously. You've got some people that have just come in, but yet, so the experience, not just from 1 to 15, but actually throughout. I mean, I was just blown away by how
I think that's what
strong
England.
that squad looked. You know what I mean? On paper. Now I know it's only on paper, but I was thinking, wow,
depth is unreal, and no other nation will get close to them. Not even New Zealand at this point, because, like you say, if Bernard doesn't play, you've got Bots. If not, you've got Zoe Harrison. You've got 5 or 6 in good key positions, and then you've got 1 or 2 that are really challenging for that shirt.
And you and I know this as well. We had a number of people in our side. Martin Johnson was ultimately our best captain ever and deserved to be, but we had 7 or 8 guys who had all been in that position before. And you feel with this England team with the likes of Marley Packer and various others. Yes, Zoe Allcroft's leading the group, but there's so many experienced players who, Emily, Marley, who've all got experience of captaining the side as well.
Did you find out, as you guys grew as when you went through your military career, the more experience you had, the better you were, as opposed to just having one?
I think we lean into the mix. So the experience, having the sort of the veteran in the teams and that is always good, but you still need some absolute young lunatic.
It's a double-edged sword. The more experienced you are, the more you worry.
Exactly, because you're a bit more aware of what the implications of losing or whatever. Whereas the youth, I can remember being a youth and you're like, I don't care. Remember I said, sometimes when it all went noisy, you'd start laughing. Maybe that was just the youth. We're like, here we go. And then it's the older blokes that are like, what are you laughing at? Fucking get a grip. So I don't know, I think there's you lean into the experience, but then the experience leans into the sort of the drive and the fire that the younger people have got. I think it complements each other well. You just got to be aware of it. I mean, one of the first things I did when I passed the selection, I'm a young lad and I'm doing those climbing ladders that you were talking about? Yeah. We're climbing up one of them we just dived, we'd been underwater. Mate, it was the first time I'd done it and I was hanging onto the ladder like that. I'm halfway up it, hanging out, I've hooked myself on, shaking out. And one of the older guys, like my team leader, just fucking climbed past me, looked at me and gone, you need to sort your fucking shit out. And that was my sort of like, it's always stuck with me and I'm like, you got to back yourself up all the time.
So, question for you then: we're about to sort of see the legacy of the second victory from the Lionesses, of the impact of going from taking women's football onto the map. No one had ever heard of them, however many years ago. Now we had heard of them going into this competition, and now individually they're probably going to take women's football to the next level. What will the legacy be of this World Cup in rugby if we were to win it in our own country for the first time?
For me, it's the perception, isn't it? I think we keep talking about women's rugby and how it's grown. I think it now has the stage in a country. Previously it was in New Zealand, so you think the time difference and all those things. It's now in Europe where actually it's going to get the exposure it's never had. And I think the girls and the level of quality of rugby on show is so much better than what we will ever seen. Yeah. So I think you look at when the girls won the Euros, they were across every paper. It wasn't just one or two of your sport papers, it was everything. Yeah. I think that's what rugby needs to now try and match. Like, you're not just being in your standard rugby players, we want to be across everywhere. I think if the girls go do that do that, it'll be amazing.
What about the other home nations?
It's tough, isn't it?
It's really tough.
Like, Wales are trying to recover. They're all trying to make up a gap, aren't they? And it'd be interesting to see what they do. I mean, there is still a class above where you have your Englands, your New Zealands, your Canadas, your France. And then there's almost a second tier below where these guys will be scrapping to get out of their groups and at least make a knockout stage. So again, for the long-term effect, you want them to have successful World Cups because that will promote more girls playing. And I guess longer term, hope that the PWR gets to a point where maybe it is more fully professional. More girls can train full time, more finances coming, more sponsorship. But yeah, I think for the other home nations, it's just to show progress, whereby some of the other countries have been way ahead and now they're just starting to play catch up.
Wales have probably got the best chance. Wales and Scotland are in the same group and they opened, that's the first game of the World Cup. Right. It's literally, and I think they're with potentially France or Canada. So they've got whoever wins that game likely goes to a quarter.
Right.
Wales have beat Australia in their warm-up games. Italy got beaten by Scotland. So I think it's got to be on Wales as the home nation to kind of fly that flag to get to a knockout.
This World Cup is also, it's like another step in these countries' rugby unions to
100%.
Become better and better. It's like, it isn't a write-off just because you didn't make it to a quarter or something. It's like, it's just an opportunity to get eyes on the game.
Stick to Rugby, brought to you by Defender.
We're now joined by Amy Nelsen, who plays Emily Valentine for Defender's Rugby World Cup promotional video. Emily Valentine was obviously the first women's rugby player that was ever recorded. Amazing. And then we're really lucky that Amy's going to join us for the last part of our show today.
Fantastic. Welcome,
Amy.
Welcome. Yeah. So presumably, Amy, to have got this part, did you have to have you got rugby experience? I noticed you're wearing a rugby shirt there. Is that your local club? Did you play rugby? And if so, who do you play for? Tell everyone who you play for.
We play for Enniskillen Rugby Club.
Right. When did you start playing then?
4 years ago, my friend Amelia introduced me into it.
Right. So what age are you now?
12.
12. So you started playing when you were 8. Wow.
Yeah.
And who were better, the boys or the girls at that age?
The girls.
Obviously.
And do you have? I can't remember now because I coached my son's team at the time. But do you have positions at that age or?
Well, I've just graduated from mini, so I'm going into youth. And then my coach James and Doug think I'm best playing 13.
13.
Yeah.
Skillful like you two then.
And probably slightly quicker. And having raced her down the corridor, she beat me. So.
And what do you think, in your opinion, is the coolest thing, is the best thing about playing rugby? What do you enjoy the most?
Well, I like eating sweets and playing music on the bus.
Oh, I like it.
Did you enjoy filming?
Yeah, I love filming. It was really fun.
Well, you seem very natural, so as a result of that, we thought that you should really take over the questions from Katy.
I might not be here next week.
So put her out of a job today. So you are going to ask us a few questions. Can you remember what they are?
What was your favourite subject at school?
Home time. Probably PE. Do they still call it PE?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Physical education. Didn't require brains, so I was all right with that.
Amy, next question. Who's that?
That's to Lewis.
Which teacher made the biggest impression on you?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. Actually, randomly, probably my maths teacher, because it took me 3 attempts to get my maths teacher SE. So she had the belief to carry on, and I wanted to join the army when I left school because rugby wasn't professional, so I had to get my maths GCSE. So Mrs. Craig, her name was.
Amy, what question have you got for me?
If you hadn't become a rugby player, what would have you done?
I'd have been in trouble, I think, to be fair. I'd have ended up in the army, I think. No, I was working, we all had jobs actually before we played rugby then, and I was working in property, so maybe I'd have carried on. But I always felt like I quite wanted to be part of a team-based sort of philosophy, so no surprise that Jason's in the army. I think I may have ended up maybe in the kitchen somewhere, because as part of a a team.
Oh, you're good at cooking.
I like it.
Maybe, maybe a chef. I just not on baking, please. Too messy, but thank you. Great question.
Topsy's next.
What was your proudest moment playing rugby?
There's two, which I really can't separate. The first one was playing for England, making my debut for England. I think as a young kid, that's something that you want to do. So to achieve that is amazing. The other one was when I broke the record for appearances for London Irish, which was my club, getting to run out with my kids. They probably didn't know what was happening, but to get to go onto the pitch with Daddy and you could I've got a lovely picture of them side by side in my hands as we've run onto the pitch to start the game, and that one is special for me.
And Amy, what's your last question to Katy?
What's the best thing about winning the Women's Rugby World Cup?
Oh, it's a good one. It was probably that bit of putting something to bed. So we chatted about having lost previous finals, had lost in 2006, being the group that finally got to lift a trophy and say we weren't the bridesmaids anymore, we were the brides, and done so many interviews around that. And then also just getting to share with the group. These guys talked about being in the change rooms and that level of shared experience where you just have that moment to think, we've done it. That was probably the best.
Yeah, just finally winning. Well, listen, thank you, Amy. Wonderful questions, they all were. Thank you for taking the time out to come on the show. Best of luck with Inniskillen Rugby Club. Yeah. Thank you to Jason for sharing some of your secrets of being a guest on Sticks of Rugby. And thank you to our hosts, our co-hosts.
Oh, bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Pleasure, guys. Thanks.
We're not coming back.
I don't know, are you?
That's it.
We could vote. Let's have a vote.
But no, thank you for joining us on Sticks of Rugby. And we know where to look now if the two Welshmen aren't available.